Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited. This is the second time that I speak at DrupalCon Europe, and so this is very exciting for me. And I appreciate you taking the time to join me. Today, we're going to be talking about advanced techniques for component integration, and this is something that I've been talking about for quite a bit, just because it could be such a complex topic to discuss. Now, I just want to warn you that typically when I speak about this topic, I have 2 or 4 hours of time to speak about it. But today, obviously, since this is a very short session, I'm gonna have to try to either speak really fast or just go super fast with the demo that I have prepared for you to see. Also, I just shared the link to the slides at the top of this thread discussion, so you can see the slides there. And in there, you'll find a link to the repository that I'm using for this demo. So you'll have access to the theme that I'm using and all the resources that I'll be using. Once I'm finished with demo, I'll be uploading the remaining pieces of the demo, which are not included in the repo just yet, but I'll be uploading those so that you have the full context of everything that I've done during the demo. So with that, I'm going to get started. Today's agenda is we're going to talk about components, what are components, and why we want to use components on a website, not just a Drupal website, but any website for that matter. We're going to go over very quickly over creating reusable components and the advantage of doing that on your project. Then we're going to be focusing on integrating the components that we build with a Drupal website. And we'll go over some Q&A. So I'm gonna ask you to, if you could, save your questions until the end of the session, just because um, otherwise I'm gonna have to switch back and forth between the demo and hopping, and I may miss some questions. So I'll try to leave some time at the end for questions that I can answer. Maybe your question will be answered as I go and speak about things further. So I wanted to just let you know that Media Current, which is the company that I work for, we have several resources for you to learn a little bit more about this topic, and they're all free. And we have a couple YouTube channels or playlists that you can actually check out. One is called Learning Bits, where you can find videos, short videos about every topic that you can think of when it comes to Drupal front end and things like that. And it's called Learning Bits, and it's a nice collection of videos. They're not really serious; they're just individual videos, 5 to 10 minutes long, where you can learn about Gulp, DDev, Drupal, components, and anything else in between, CSS, SAS. And so I will invite you to check that out. And also we have another series. This is a series from beginning to end, over 20 videos on how to theme with components, how to theme a Drupal website with components. So very good resources. Again, they're all free, and I invite you to check those out. So, as a little bit about myself, I live in Los Angeles. So, as you can imagine, it's very early for me here. I had to get up at 4 in the morning just to finalize my materials. But right now it's about 5 in the morning. But I'm very excited to be here. This is an event that I've been looking forward to. It's been a while since I presented at a DrupalCon. I think it was last time I presented at DrupalCon was not even last year. I think it was the year before the pandemic. But I'm excited to be here. I've been working with Drupal for over 15 years, primarily as a front-end developer. I am a trainer and obviously I'm a speaker and writer. I write a lot of content for training and just general blogs on my personal blog and also Media Currents blog. And one of the things that I enjoy the most is helping other people, level up their skills and achieve the type of goals that they want to achieve when it comes to working on the Drupal site. I also co-host the Media Current Open Waters podcast. If you haven't had to listen to that, a little bit about Media Current. We are a digital agency. We do everything from design, development, strategy, SEO, um, and everything in between. So I would highly encourage you to check us out. We are a group of people who are to constantly improve technology for our clients. We love working with clients that to provide us with challenges, and we would love to um, make those challenges, you know, create solutions for the challenges. And so we have a group of team members who are just extremely talented. We are typically top rated, top 10 when it comes to contributions to the Drupal project. And we just love what we do. So I invite you to check out Media Current, and we're also hiring within the United States. If you are looking for a job within the United States, we would love to talk to you. So look at our careers page, and hopefully you can find something you're looking for there. Here is the project that I'll be pushing demo content to. I already have an initial theme set up in place that you can look at, but I'll be at the end of the demo, I'll be pushing the remaining part of the code that I'll be working with, so that you have the whole project in place for you. It's mainly it will be a theme that I'll be working with, a theme that you can apply to any Drupal project when it comes to building the components and integrating those components with Drupal. So, all right. So, what are components, right? In simple terms, components are a collection of reusable patterns that help us build pages, and that is the main goal, right? When we say build components and focus on building components, it's not just for components purposes. Is the ultimate goal is for us to build pages for our websites, right? To build full blown out pages that you can manipulate. And the beauty of building reusable patterns is that those pages can be built in a very unique way, meaning that when you have a great collection of components that you can reuse over and over, each of the pages that you build can actually be pretty unique, because you can rearrange components in any way you wish, and so that each page has a very unique take, and not two pages can look alike unless that's what you're looking for. But it gives you a lot more flexibility when you have components at your disposal. For example, if we think about building components, we start, let's say, with a simple button, right? We can say view all your trips, view all your content, view all your blog posts, or view all your news articles. We could also think about having a card component, right? Which presents a collection of, could be a collection of news articles. Each item on this card here could be its own component. And you can think of this when you think about atomic design, you can think of each of these pieces here as an atom, right? If that's what the terminology that you want to use. The image will be an atom, the little tag, orange tag will be an atom, and the title will be an atom. This here could be another component, kind of like a filtering list of topics. And finally, we can have some kind of banner or hero image that could also be its own components. And now, once you have all these pieces built individually, independently of each other completely, then you can build something more like this, where you are combining them all into something that, in more context, that gives you a better visual experience, a user experience, and it just gives you a visually appealing look and feel of the section that you may be trying to build. So this here, the list of cards at the bottom, is just a repeated list of cards that you only build once, and you can use over and over again to build different types of layouts. Here is another option where you are making use of the same pieces, but just rearranging them differently. You can see that you didn't have to build these things all over again. You simply reusing them by having them available to you as reusable components. So this gives you tremendous flexibility and allows you to scale your project in a way that the traditional way of building websites would not allow you to. So this is one of the huge advantage of building components, is the way that you can scale your project, the way you can build and iterate how you build your pages and your site by using components. So for building components, we're gonna be looking at building a card like this. So the idea is that each of these cards will represent a an article, or you can think of a blog post. So this may seem as a very trivial, very easy to do kind of exercise, and to an extent it is. But the one thing that some people may sometimes forget when building something like this is that even if you're building this on your design system, whether it's a storybook or pattern lab or any other design system that you use, when you're building a component like this, you need to start thinking about Drupal from the beginning, because there are a lot of things that Drupal does and does really well that you don't want to throw away. You don't want to forget about them when the time comes to integrate your components with Drupal. You want to be able to make sure that Drupal still has a way to inject Drupal attributes into your markup. You want to make sure that Drupal has a way to allow you to enable contextual links in your markup so that you can edit the the articles in line if that's something you wish to do, right? So those things that Drupal does and does really well, you want to make sure that they are conserved, that they are not thrown away. And so we're going to be going over how you can achieve that even though we're displaying this content, Drupal content, on a card that we build ourselves with our own markup, that we still are able to see the attributes that Drupal may need to inject in our markup. And also we still want to be able to edit this article directly from the card here without having to jump to the content section of our Drupal site. So we'll go over some examples on how we can achieve that. And we're going to be using the atomic design methodology, right? So even though I don't personally use the naming convention the atomic design uses, such as atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages, I still follow the same principles. The only difference is that for me, everything that I do, I just call it a component or pattern rather than atoms or molecules or organisms. To me, the naming conventions is a little confusing to me. Not confusing, it's just a little bit more challenging to work with, because especially when you're working and nesting components into other components, you I kind of lose track of what is what and what the namespace for each of those things are. So I rather just call everything a component, and that just makes things a lot easier for me. So I'm going to stop the slides because that's all the slides I have, and then I'm going to jump into the code. And I want to make sure that everybody is good. I know that I realized that for the slides, that's okay. It's okay if you can't see full view mode, but once I do the demo, I'm going to turn off my video so that people can do full screen through the Hopin platform when the recording is available. So I'll be shutting down my video for the time being so that we can jump and start working with the code. So very quickly, this is the card that we are building. Like we just saw, I'm looking at Pattern Lab here. And so right now I don't have it built. So I'm going to go start and build this now. And I realize obviously my time is running out. But here is, I have a Drupal theme, very simple. I call the components theme. And in there, I have a source directory, patterns, and components. This is where I build all my components. So again, I follow the atomic design methodology, but I don't necessarily follow the naming convention. I know in the past, Pattern Lab used to use a numeric prefix to name all of its patterns and components. And so that just made things a little bit more complicated for me, just because you have to remember what number you assign to each component. But here for me is everything is a component. I have a couple of components that I already created. One is a button, nothing special about it, just a simple button component where in Twig I'm passing some logic saying that if there is a URL, I'm going to print that button as a link. Otherwise, I'll print the button element. And this is important for accessibility purposes. You want to make sure that you always use the right HTML elements when creating components, right? If we have a URL, we obviously want to direct people somewhere, to a different page, to a different site, or to a different section in the same page. So we want an anchor. Otherwise, if we don't have a URL, we most likely want perform an action. So that will be in the button element. I also have a heading component or title, which I've included several properties for this title. One is a heading level that will allow us to change from H1 through H6, our heading level. Modifier, I always put modifiers on my components in case I want to pass some kind of modifier CSS class to my components. URL and title. And the logic here is very similar to what we have for the button, which is completing the heading part by passing the value of the heading level. And if no value is passed, what I'm doing is I'm putting a default of 2, so that at least we end up with an H2 for our heading level. And then just pass a modifier if we have a modifier. And if we have a URL, then we're going to wrap the title in an anchor. Otherwise, we're just going to print the title as plain text, and then we close the heading the same way. So these two components are built, and we're going to be reusing them when we build the card component. So I have started the card component. I just started with the data structure of it. When we look at the card here, we notice that we have a few fields, right? And again, this card will represent a news article. It could represent a blog post. It could represent basically a node on your Drupal website. And so we have an image field, we have a date field, title, which is a link. That's important to note. The body, which is a teaser version of the body text, and we have a call to action button that reads read the full article. So that's what I've done here. We have an image, and for the image, what I like to do in my components, I like to pass the full image tag as the value of the image. The reason for that is when I'm ready to integrate this component with Drupal, rather than stripping the image source or the alt text for the image, I'm asking Drupal to give me the full image entity. And this gives me all about that image that I need. It gives me any um, image styles that the image may use, any attributes that the image may use, alt text, the source, and everything else that the image contained as an entity in Drupal. So that's what I like to, um, print the full image tag here rather than just the image source and alt attribute, which some people do. And in some cases, that may be what you need to do if you're planning on using an image as a background image. Perhaps you simply want the source for that image, right? But if I'm planning on printing a native image on my page, then I like to just grab the full image entity from Drupal instead. I have a date field. I have the heading component, the title for the card, and I have structured it the same way as our heading component, right? So that the properties are the same as what our component was built with. Then we have body field, call to action field for the button. And finally, I like to always set up a placeholder for modifier in the event that we need to pass a modifier class to our card. So let me build the twig for this real quick. I'm gonna create a card.twig. One of the first things that I do is I like to attach a library for uh, the component that I am building. Because although this has not effect whatsoever in Pattern Lab, the reason we attach the library at the component level is that every time we want to use the component, its library will come with it. We don't need to continue to attach libraries on other templates if the component already has the library attached. And I want to make sure that the library does exist. So if I go to my components theme libraries, I'm going to see that I don't have a library for it. So I'm going to quickly make a copy of other library that I have here, and I'm simply going to rename this to card. and the CSS for this will be placed inside the card, this CSS. And this is happening, all this compiling of CSS is happening with Gulp, which is part of the theme that I'm using. So you can take a look at the Gulp tasks that I have here for compiling, cleaning, formatting, and doing all kinds of things with my code. And again, this will be available in the repository that we have. So then I'm going to create a quick wrapper for the card. But in here, I want to pass any value in case we have modifier um, for our card. I want to pass the values for it, so that if we need to pass a CSS class to it, I can do that real quick here. The other thing that I like to do, what I was talking about before, is I don't want to throw away any way for Drupal to add attributes to our markup. So what I like to always do here is I like to add placeholders for my Drupal attributes. So first I check if I have attributes. And if I do, I want to say I want to do attributes, but in this case, I just want the class, right? So that they can be added by Drupal alongside my own class that I have, card, right? And then I check again for attributes, but this time I pass the attributes without the class, just any other data attributes, maybe any other type of attributes that Drupal wants to pass that are not classes will be placed outside of the class attribute that you see here. So this gives me that flexibility that even though I'm using my own markup, I still want Drupal to inject attributes that Drupal may deem necessary for my component. Um, and so next I'm going to do if image, I'm going to add a wrapper for my image. Um, and here, since the image tag is simply the image variable, I'm just going to pass that. And we're going to do the rest of the card wrappers here. The next one we're going to do is going to be the date. So we'll do here. Print the date real quick here. I believe I have component for this eyebrow is called. Maybe I needed to include the eyebrow here. Let me do that. And I'm gonna quickly sheet here by copying some of the data that I have here. So I don't want to be walking you through every single step. So instead, I'm going to include a previously built component. This is what I was talking about before, including a previously built component. We have this eyebrow component, which is just basically a string of text, like a label or a taxonomy term. And so I'm including it using our namespace for our theme and the eyebrow, and I'm passing the values of each item there. I'm going to do now the title, which is going to be the same thing, except in this case, the title is going to be, it's called heading. If there is a heading, then I'm going to include the heading component. And here, all I need to do actually just need to pass a heading from the original component. And here it will be heading. So all I'm doing is, if I look at the heading component, you see that the structure of my component is a heading object with 4 different properties. And in my card right here, I have the same thing, heading component, and this name could be anything we want. It doesn't matter. As long as the properties inside of it are the same, that's all that really matters. If they say the title of the object was title, I can then map it to the title instead of heading. But since I call them the same, I'm just gonna heading to heading there. Um, the next one is body, and this one is just a simple um, uh, string there. And finally, I'm going to repeat this with the button, which is the last field. And I'm going to, since the button is called CTA, pass this here CTA, and similar to what we did with the title or heading, we are just mapping button to CTA, no CATA, and this is button. And let's see if I didn't miss anything. I'm going to compile my code. Watch, see if that goes without any errors there. I'm just compiling so I can look at the component and name of value attributes is post statement expected. Did I miss something here? Oops, I forgot the concatenations. Pieces there. There we go, much better. So again, bringing this here. There we go. So now the card is rendering based on what I just built here. This was from the previous one. So it is now built. You can see that the title is a link as we wanted to because we have a URL. So now that I have this build, how do I make it go? And if I look at my Drupal site here, I have a bunch of articles that I created already. This is a vanilla Drupal 9 site. So what I would like is for each article to be represented as a card. So I'm going to use the teaser view mode just to make things simple. I was going to create a different view mode, but I'm just going to use the teaser view mode for the article content type, which is what I have here. These are a bunch of articles. And so I'm going to quickly, in my site, I'm going to, let's see here, rename default.services to just services so that I can enable tweak debugging. Let's see, tweak config, do true for tweak debugging, true and false for cache. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my cache real quick. And this is simply for me to identify what template Drupal is using to render this content, right? So if I right click and inspect this here, I'm going to be looking for the node template that these nodes are using. So if I keep scrolling up, one of the things that I will see here is the article. So each of these articles that I'm using is wrapped in an article tag. And I'm looking at here that Drupal is using the node template by default, but I want to create a custom tweak template suggestion. And the one that works the best is the node article, which is the content type, and the teaser view mode that I'm planning on using to integrate this with the card. So I'm going to go to my theme and I'll go to Drupal core actually. And inside themes, stable, I'm going to go to the templates and under content, I'm going to grab the node template. Obviously, right, we don't want to override, we don't want to hack core. So I want to do instead is create a copy of that template inside my own theme. So in here, I'm going to create a content directory to keep things organized the same way. And typically when I'm planning on using this template many times, I wouldn't just rename this template. What I will do instead, I will make a copy of it and rename that copy so that I can keep the original template intact and I can continue to make copies of it if I needed to. So this will be node article teaser. And if I clear my cache again, what I would notice there will be no visual difference whatsoever in the content, how it's rendered. But now we can see that Drupal is using the template that I just created by having this little X next to it. And so now Drupal is using my template. And now I can begin the integration process so that the card can be integrated with Drupal. So we have all of this here. And for the integration, I don't need any of this. I'm going to wipe it out. In fact, this template in the context of Drupal components is called presenter template, meaning that its only job is to pass the data from Drupal to our component and nothing else. There shouldn't be any markup on this template because um, all the markup should be coming from the component itself. I'm gonna just pass a variable here just to trigger the rendering of the full content array, because we want the full content array to be available to within our template, so that Drupal can still work with caching and all the things that it needs to do. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable for um, for the title, because Drupal only gives us the value um, for the title and the URL. And our title was built very specifically with 4 different properties, right? It was heading level, it was modifier, title, and a URL. So Drupal, if we look at the template here, I always like to leave these comments untouched so that I can reference them when I need to. If we look at the label, is the actual title of the node, and the URL is the URL of the node, right? So Drupal gives us those 2 things in a separate. So we want to construct our title. So we do heading level, and this will be 2. Modifier, I think, is card title is the modifier that I'm using. The title is label, right? The label property that we just saw, the label variable that we just saw up there, and then the URL, it's going to be Drupal's URL. And so I'm putting together this variable so that I can use it, and I'm going to use the same thing for the CTA field, except this will be CTA. I don't need heading level. Card CTA. The text for the CTA will be, we can call it anything we want, but we're going to read the full article. And then URL is still going to be URL. And now I'm going to do a twig include to bring in our card so that we can make use of the fields that we just set up there. Card, we'll bring in the card. And we're going to be starting mapping. But before we start mapping the fields, I want to pass the attributes first. So I'm going to put the attributes to attributes placeholders that I have in the card with Drupal. I'm going to type title prefix, because we want to make sure that we have contextual links available in our card. I think I may have forgotten the prefix on the card, so I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. And I'm typing super fast, so I hope I'm not messing anything up. So now we're going to map the fields. I'm going to do the image, and this is where the image tag comes in handy. It's rather than passing attributes of the image, I'm just going to pass the full image. So this one is content field image, and this is just something that I know is a machine name for the image field on the article content type. Then we have date, and this is just going to be date. Then we have body. We do content body. And then we have CTA. And then this is going to be the variable that I just set up here. It will be content CTA. I forgot the title. So heading. It will be this variable that I just passed here. I'm going to do this only. And just before I switch back, I'm going to, I forgot to add the title attribute. I'm sorry, the title prefix. So these are placeholders that mean absolutely nothing to Pattern Nav, but Drupal will make use of this. So that's why it's important to set them up, even if Pattern Nav is not doing anything with them. So I'm going to make sure that clear my cache. I want to, hopefully I didn't break anything. Hopefully I didn't make any typos, which is very typical that happens for me. But now that I mapped the field, and yes, something went wrong, obviously. Um, and maybe some of you already caught it, what I did wrong. But let me double check real quick. Um, I want to see what the error reads here. So components, card tweak. Oh, okay. I think is singular. I did singular for the theme, and it's plural that I need to do here. It's components theme, not component theme. Let's see if that does it. There we go. Now, keep in mind, the image may not be the size, and we can change that in just a moment. That's just an image style, but you can see that the field, the card is showing now. It doesn't look properly because we can do a few tweaks here. We can go to content type, article, manage display. I'm going to shorten the body for the teaser view mode that we're using. I'm going to shorten the body to do trimmed, and maybe just do 200 characters. For the image style, I'm going to use a different image style, maybe a larger one. Let's do this one, see how it looks. And let's see what this looks like. Much better like that. So now each article is showing us the card that I just created here, as you can see here. And here is my edit link. So even though I'm using my own markup, if I inspect this here, you can see that I'm using, this is my component here. This is where my component starts. And I have all these attributes that Drupal is injecting in my own markup. But my markup is nicely clean. Here, card image, card content, all my fields are here, right? The date of the field, obviously we need to update that, but for now we're gonna leave it as is. And here are the other things that Drupal is using. So although I am using my own markup, which gives me tremendous amount of power to customize things the way I wanted, to write a specific and semantic markup, I'm still letting Drupal inject all the things that Drupal needs in order to properly handle caching and other performance issues that Drupal may need to address by using the type of attributes that Drupal needs. And my contextual links are available on every card where I can edit them in line if I need to, and be able to work with Drupal. So I'm not losing any functionality from Drupal by simply using my own markup, right? I'm letting Drupal still have access to all the things that Drupal does, even though I have my own markup. So I'm gonna stop it there, and I want to see if there are any comments or questions that I can answer. Um, Let me see here. Oh, the style guide generation. I don't have time to show a style guide, but you'll have it in the repo, and you'll be able to navigate all the things there. Uh, UI patterns. I've used UI patterns, and yeah, this is a great module actually to use. Um, I don't see questions. Okay. Oh, the quick edit is still functional. Let me see where to go. It should be right. Uh, there is, but let me see. I don't see the. Yeah, I should be able to see the quick edit. Either I missed something. Let me see here. Where was it? Title prefix, title suffix. Sometimes if I do a typo, let's see, I'm passing the attributes, title prefix, title prefix, suffix. So that is coming along. I will have to look and see why, because it should be coming through the quick edit functionality. unless I'm doing myself with this side. Let me see here. It must be something I am missing here, but I've seen it here. I could be missing something, and that's why it's not coming through. I mean, I can edit it, but it takes me to the full page, which is not bad still. But I should be able to quickly edit in line. And I don't know if something to do. This is a quick vanilla install, so I don't know if there's something additional that I need to do there. But I can check into that and maybe post something on Twitter or something about it. But let's see. Oh, the share of the repo. Yes. So isn't this isn't the where'd it go? So I'll be uploading these changes to the repo shortly because the things that I just wrote there are not in the repo, but the theme is. So there's the link. Okay, somebody already posted it. Thank you for doing that. You can integrate the language switcher. This language switcher in Pattern Lab. So I will have to see what Drupal requires for that to see if we can add placeholders in Pattern Lab for that. But let me stop sharing, and so that I will have to see what Drupal requires for language switcher and Pattern Lab in Drupal to see how we can make that available in Pattern Lab. But I'm pretty sure that it can be done. Um, the style guide generation. Not sure what you mean, but let me quickly do another demo of that real quick here. So what I do for the style guide is there are a series of um, commands that you can follow, and if you look at the package.json, you will see that up on the area where it says scripts. These are all the different commands you can run for the pattern app. I typically just run npm run build or npm run watch to do the style guide. For example, this is the watch task. The build will simply build the style guide, but it doesn't let you see it because it just compiles everything, but it doesn't stay there watching for your changes. So that's why I use npm run watch. And what this will do, it will compile the style guide, but at the same time, it will sit there waiting so that any file that changes, it will automatically compile and reload your browser for you. So this is the style guide. Here's the button component that we have created. The eyebrow is just a title, and the heading component is just a link. And now we have our card component here. So I believe that is it. Unfortunately, that was super fast. I didn't realize it was going to be this fast, but I do want to thank you for your time. And I don't know if there are any other questions, but you can find me on Twitter. If you have any questions, please feel free to ping me at any time, and Slack on Drupal Slack. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the con. Thank you so much for having me, and look out for the remaining of the repo code that I'll be pushing in just a moment, so you can have everything that I just did there. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.